All right. Good morning. Good morning sa lahat. Good morning. All right. So we'll be starting our Tech4ED webinar. So this is entitled The Future or Education 4.0, Transforming the Future of Education. So before we start our program, right, let's have the Republic Act number 10844, in this declared of the policy that to promote the digital literacy, ICT expertise, and knowledge building among citizens to enable them to participate and compete in an evolving ICT age. So I'll be your moderator po for this morning. I'm Mr. KJ Marquez, your Tech4ED coordinator in the province of Quezon, and yours truly, your webinar moderator for this morning. So before we start, let's have the opening prayer followed by the singing of the Philippine national anthem.
Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Please help us to come together to make this institution reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions. Help us build a team that has love and respect at its heart. Give us the strength to continue working for your kingdom in this time of pandemic. Lord, come give us the inspiration to be the best we can be. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within, wherever we are. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Bayang magiliw, pelos ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupit, di ka masisingil, sa lagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mo bangag, ay ilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang tinawag.
Hello po. Yan. I do apologize po. Um, in our post-evaluation form, alright, in our post-evaluation form, you can scan po yung ating, ang ating QR code scanner. So you can have the post-evaluation form. So we have the tinyurl.com slash e okay, ec3e8j4 and a. Again, that's tinyurl, okay, slash ec3e8j4 and a. Okay, so I'll be posted din po sa ating chat box yung ating post evaluation form. Okay? So please bear with me po while I am posted po yung ating post evaluation form. Okay? Please bear with me po. Yan po. So you can actually have this post evaluation form. Yan po. Okay? So you can check the link po sa ating post evaluation form. Yan. Right. Yan. So I'll just go back lang din po sa ating guidelines and reminders po. No, I do apologize, so we have technical difficulties. So yan. So again, for the guidelines and reminders, again, the webinar is recorded for documentation purposes and it will be streaming po live via YouTube. Please turn off your microphone and camera. Do not share your screen or do annotation. Observe proper decorum and etiquette. Use the chat box for your questions. If you have questions po in regards po sa ating topic with our resource speaker, later po during the question and answer, it will be addressed by our resource speaker. Okay? So meron po kayong naisip na tanong on the topic, you can use the chat box na po. Okay? And we will ask it later. Is ang ating pong electronic certificate will be provided for those who attended the full duration of the webinar. So kailangan po buong duration po no na maka-attend po kayo dito and answer the post-evaluation form. So in accessing po yung ating post-evaluation form, 4 webinar codes will be given po during the webinar natin to this morning, which is needed po in answering the post-evaluation form. Answer the question based on the webinar discussion. Also, please be more specific in your answer. So irrelevant answers po in the post-evaluation form may lead to forfeit your e-certificate issuance. Okay? Again, please input a valid and active email address po when filling out the post-evaluation form. So meron po kasi instances na yung mga emails po na na-receive po namin is nagbabounce back po. So make sure po na before you proceed with another section or another page of the post-evaluation form, make sure po na tama na po yung ating active email address. Okay? And the cut-off time for our post-evaluation form is 2 p.m. The live streaming po is actually we are now currently live and the replay po ng ating YouTube live will be available po after the post evaluation has been closed. Okay? And again, yan po yung ating post evaluation form. Okay? Yan. Now, here is our first webinar code po. Okay? This is our first webinar code. You have 2 minutes po to actually screenshot or copy the webinar code po natin. All right. So let's have the mandate and function of the Department of Information and Communications Technology. The Department of Information and Communications Technology, or the DICT, shall be the primary policy planning, coordinating, implementing, and administrative entity of the executive branch of the government that will plan, develop, and promote the national ICT agenda. This is in regards with the Republic Act number 10844. Here is the programs and projects of the Department of ICT, the Tech4ED project, the Pre-Wi-Fi for All program, the Electronic Business Permit and Licensing System, or the EBPLS, the Digital PH, the Government Emergency Communication System, the National Broadband Plan, the Central Business Portal, the National Government Portal, or we call it the gov.ph, the Digital TV Philippines, the National Cybersecurity Plan of 2022, the Philippine National Public Key Infrastructure, or the PNPKI, and many more. So to provide us the opening and the welcoming remarks, may I welcome you to our um, Regional Director, Engineer Renaldo TC.
Good morning, everyone. In behalf of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, Luzon Cluster 2, we welcome everyone in today's Tech4ED webinar on Education 4.0, Transforming the Future of Education. The COVID-19 pandemic totally puts everything in totally different perspective, especially the educational system. What used to be a standard practice of students going to school, of students interacting with their fellow students, and of students discussing topics with their teachers face-to-face has now been totally changed. Direct interaction and direct learning in the schools were temporarily prohibited and suspended. This is a total paradigm shift from the previous system of face-to-face or direct classroom style of teaching that our educational system had known for and has been practicing for centuries. It is commendable for our resource person, Engineer Jodeline Toscano, in providing us with this webinar. We all knew the hardship of this environment on our educational system, not only to our students, but also to our teachers alike. This is the very reason why we are here today. We need to transition and transform our educational system. We need to adapt to the new normal that this pandemic brought about for the sake of our students and also for the future leaders of the country. Together we will make things better. Thank you and good morning once again.
All right, so thank you, Engineer Renaldo TC, for our opening remarks. So for our second webinar code for this morning, so here is our second webinar code. So I'll give you a minute or a minute or two um to list down the second webinar code for this morning. All right. So that is our second webinar code for this morning. So again, I will welcome you to our 8th webinar series entitled Education 4.0, Transforming the Future of Education. All right, so I'll be introducing po our resource speaker for this morning. So Engineer Jodeline L. Toscano is currently studying her Master in Engineering and Electronics Engineering at the Adamson University under the CHED Scholarship Program. She's graduated with her Bachelor of Science in Electronics and Communications Engineering or BSECE in the year 1999. With hard work, she passed the board examination for Electronics and Communications Engineer. She took up ISO Internal Quality Auditing, Cisco Certified Network Associate, the CCNA 1 to 4, and the Teacher Certificate Program. Today, Engineer Toscano is a senior high school teacher at Tansa National Comprehensive High School. She formerly holds other key positions in San Sebastian College, Recolectos de Cavite, as a department head of the program PSECE. In Daycum Philippines Incorporated, she holds a position of process engineer and failure analyst, and among others. Now, may I welcome you to Engineer Jodeline L. Toscano.
And good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sir Engineer Marquez, for the introduction. So good morning, everyone. So I hope na maayos tayo lahat kasi meron past few days. So we have Typhoon Fabian. So I hope na okay tayo lahat in this rainy morning. So medyo unstable yung internet connection ko pero we'll push through with the webinar. Okay, thank you, sir. So I'll be, before we start, so gusto ko po nang malaman, have you heard the term Education 4.0 prior to this webinar? So you may type at the chat box. So sino po dito yung familiar with the term Education 4.0? Okay, so majority po of the participants ay hindi pa po familiar with the term 4.0. Okay. So actually, matagal na naman po yung may term tayo, Educational 4.0, but so ngayon lang po tayo nagiging aware. So one good thing that brought about the pandemic is naging aware tayo of the changes in terms of the education system of how we teach students. So ito siguro yung isang magandang naging positive output ng isang ng pandemic. So nagkaroon tayo ng bagong perspective na iangat yung educational system ng especially dito sa Philippines. So kasi medyo disheartening yung naririnig natin ng mga news regarding the assessment of our students in terms of the science, mathematics with against dun sa mga neighboring countries natin sa Asia. So I hope after this webinar, we could assess ourselves na ano ba yung pwede kong maging contribution and self-awareness to improve. Okay, so again, so I hope na okay po kayo lahat. So I'll be starting my presentation. Okay, so Education 4.0, transforming the future of education. So we will be finding out, so why does the Education 4.0 will transform the future of education? Okay, so background natin, a little background of our educational system. So in the new millennium, technology began to infiltrate the education process, and both students and teachers started to utilize the technology in basic ways, otherwise known as the Education 2.0. So as this technology advanced, including the mass infiltration of the more user-generated internet, Education 3.0 was formed. So students now had their own access to information, the option to learn virtually. So ngayon is virtual na yung, some of the teachers are doing their teaching virtually. So the platforms to easily connect with faculty and other students. This encouraged the development of a more personalized way of learning. So ang key term dyan is personalized way of learning. So where the students' independence and unique approach to study was celebrated. So in Education 4.0, medyo drastic yung pagbabago ng education system natin. So we'll be discussing that one by one as we go on. So what is Education 4.0? So Education 4.0 is a desired approach to learning that aligns itself with the emerging fourth industrial revolution, which is the IR 4.0. So I've read dun sa some of the comments na meron silang aware sila sa Industrial Revolution 4.0 or IR 4.0, which is dun talaga naka-align yung Education 4.0. So this industrial revolution focuses on the smart technology. So ngayon is meron na tayong what we call the smart schools, which i-discuss ko din later. Artificial intelligence, we're talking about AI, robotics, all of which now impact our everyday lives. So for universities to continue to produce successful graduates, they must prepare their students for a world where these cyber physical systems are prevalent across all industries. So if nag-emerge na yung industry, so therefore meron silang need, and that need kailangan mapaliit natin yung gap between the education and the industry. So this means teaching students about this technology as part of the curriculum. So babaguhin natin yung curriculum in align doon sa IR 4.0, which is ito yung mga ngailangan ng workforce. So changing the approach to learning altogether and utilizing this technology to better improve the university experience. So the theme, Educating for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, is characterized by the fusion and amplification of emerging technology breakthroughs in artificial intelligence. So more on yung mga gamit na sa laboratory, nasa AI na tayo, and then there is automation, robotics. So physically or pwede rin tayong physically wala tayo doon pero pwede tayong virtually nandun sa isang room. So we have also the augmented reality. So ito na yung pumapasok yung Education 4.0. So multiplied by the connectivity between billions using mobile devices with access to data and knowledge. So lahat naman ngayon ng students have the access or have the mobile devices that can connect, but kailangan pa natin na challenges natin sa ngayon is the connectivity issues regarding the connections. So the breakthroughs in science and technology are having a profound effect on education systems, labor markets, and ultimately business in industry. So magkakakonect kasi lahat yan from the education, from the labor, and the industry. So a recent report by the International Labor Organization estimates that the automation will replace the jobs of 137 million people in Southeast Asia within the next 20 years. So ito yung mga nagiging agam-agam or fears ng mga tao na baka in the future all jobs will be replaced by robots. So hindi naman meron ako nabasa hindi naman ganun yung mangyayari. Basta at least we should upskill. So kailangan we continue to improve ourselves. So if we continue our ourselves, hindi tayo mapag-iiwanan. So hindi tayo mare-replace by something that is a robot. So kailangan natin yung continuous education, continuous learning, so upskilling. So in the industry, so a brief overview of the Industry 4.0 is the digital transformation of industrial markets with smart manufacturing. So actually, nag-start na talaga yung term na smart doon sa mga manufacturing. So instead of yung manual or repetitive jobs na ginagawa ng isang worker, so ang gumagawa na ngayon are machines, robots. So that's what we call, or may mga sensors na, that's what we call the smart manufacturing. So it represents the so-called fourth industrial revolution. So ngayon, sa industry, meron na tayong tinatawag na IR 4.0. So discrete and process manufacturing, so logistics and supply chain, so lahat ng logistics natin, procurement, purchasing, so lahat na siya kasama sa chemical industry, energy, transportation and utilities, and practically all everyday life natin is mapupunta na into a smart world. So the first mechanization in the first industrial revolution, so we have the water power, steam power, ito yung mga steam engines. So second is the mass production, the assembly line, electricity. So ito yung nakikita natin ng manufacturing natin ngayon. Meron tayong assembly lines, meron tayong mass production. So the third revolution is the computer and automation. So pumasok na ngayon ang mga robots, computers, and other na for those repetitive jobs. And then now for the fourth industrial revolution, we have the cyber physical system. So meaning pwede nang hindi physically nandun ka sa site to perform a certain task or a job. So the rise of the new digital industrial technology known as the IR 4.0 is a transformation to gather and analyze data across machines. So enabling faster and more flexible, so mas mabilis since it is using machines, more efficient processes to produce higher quality goods at reduced cost. So kailangan talaga is makuha natin what is our goal in more efficient way. So reducing the cost. So efficiency pa rin yung pinagtatalunan pa rin dito. So this revolution will increase productivity, shift economics, foster industrial growth, and modify profile of the workforce. So mababago na yung tingin natin sa workforce. Competitiveness of the company. So kailangan din not only yung workforce but also the companies must upgrade. So continually to improve para hindi sila mapag-iwanan ng mga competitors nila. So without bold reforms and education and clear policies to guide us through, many people will lack the necessary skills to fill this new position in economies and societies that are anticipated to be fundamentally different. So if nagkakaroon ng transition or a shift yung industry natin, so magkakaroon sila ng kailangan nilang mag-acquire ng skills para sumunod doon. So that is when the education system na kailangan din nating mag-shift in order to adapt dun sa kailangan ng industry natin. So ngayon kasi, if dun sa CHED, sa pag-uusap is malaki talaga yung between the industry and education, malaki talaga yung gap between the industry and the education system. So yung mga kailangan ng industry, hindi naman yun yung ibinibigay ng education system natin. So kailangan i-bridge natin yung gap sa kailangan yung mga napoproduce natin from our universities ay skillful enough to perform what is needed in the industry. So in the Industry 4.0, we're talking about autonomous robots, so system integration, sa Internet of Things. Ito rin yung big revolution sa Internet of Things. So everything it is connected to the internet, even if your refrigerators, even if your shoes can be connected to the internet. So simulation, additive manufacturing, the cloud computing, so augmented reality, so the big data. So this comes kaya kailangan natin ng awareness into security, data security, and cybersecurity. So ito yung which comprises our IR 4.0. So IR covers the issues of emerging technologies in Industry 4.0. So the type of skills needed to succeed in a fast-changing world. So major rapid yung change. So the role of the private sector in training. So malaking help yung private sector na tumulong sa training in upscaling the people, the teachers, the students, and so lahat para makasunod tayo in the Industry 4.0. And how to plan training strategies for future changes in skills and work. So issues of emerging technology in Industry 4.0. So industries and government will then confront a unique challenge. So maganda rin kasing opportunity na itong DICT na makapagbigay ng mga trainings para makasunod yung mga teachers in even the private sectors kung ano yung mga bago in the industry. So kailangan ng help from the industry, the private sector, and also the government to go hand in hand. So para masolusyonan natin yung gap between the system for industrialized country. So growth in employment opportunities and a shortage of potential employees with the skills to occupy both new and existing roles. So kailangan natin ng continuous upskilling. Kasi ang tendency kasi, once na we have the Industry 4.0, magbubukas ng opportunity for all globally. So even sa employment, so pwede nang kumuha ng mga, since pwede nang hindi physically present, so pwede nang kumuha ng mga consultant, mga workers from other countries that have the skills na kailangan ng mga industry. So ayaw naman natin mangyari yun na gano'n na ang workforce pa ay manggagaling sa ibang bansa. So kailangan within dito sa atin sa Philippines ay ma-encourage natin ng lahat ng mga tao, the students, the teacher, the university, na magkaroon ng skills na kailangan sa trabaho. So top emerging technologies, so we have the 3D printing, the gene editing. So ito na yung mga, have you heard the news na yung mga dati mga extinct na mga animals, yung mammoth? Have you heard yung sa mammoth na binubuhay po ulit nila ngayon? So nag-iiba ng gene ngayon para hindi na maulit yung mga sakit. So we have the gene editing, so mobile technology, the nanotechnology for the industry, so solar technology and other renewable energy. So ngayon pinapalakas na since nagkakaroon tayo ng awareness about the global warming. So we're shifting into renewable technologies, the virtual reality, the Internet of Things, the artificial intelligences, and robotics. So originally, Industry 4.0 is only about manufacturing, smart factories and activities, technologies and processes in factory, production in their most closely related areas. There is also a tendency to limit Industry 4.0 to technologies such as the Internet of Things. So ito na yung nalabas, emergence of the IoT. I'll be discussing also a short overview of what is IoTs. So these technologies have great potential to continue to connect billions more people to the web. So ngayon is lahat is meron na tayong global connectivity. So drastically improve the efficiency of businesses. So instead of flying from one country to another for a business transaction, so pwede na siyang to do it virtually in organizations and help regenerate the natural environment. So innovation. So ano ba yung innovation? Ito yung kailangan natin. So innovation means first different, then better. So doing or inventing something that is different and better. So it is a fundamentally different way of doing things with better and different outcomes. So both the different and the better must be significant and substantial. So innovation natin should be creating something different and better. So innovation, teaching supports students' development of skills that will help them thrive in the future life and work. So ngayon, kailangan na nating mabago kung ano yung system of education natin kasi hindi na nakakasunod to the growing transformation in the industry. So the art of teaching is the art of assisting discovery. So kailangan na natin na may mabago. Ang tanong is, are we ready for that changes? So the three key elements that consistently drive innovation in education is what we call the 3 Ps: the people, the processes, and the philosophies. So kailangan mabago din natin yung the people, processes, and also the philosophies. So that makes some individuals and the people they lead more innovative than others. So education is not the learning of facts but training the mind to think. So kailangan may continuous learning, continuous have the desire to continue to discover new things. So kailangan hindi siya natatapos na after we graduate from colleges and for example taking master's degree in sa education is mag-stop na. So kailangan we continuously think of inventing something that will help. And also, kailangan din natin na, since changing the environment natin, so kailangan din nating sumunod dun sa changes. So, kaya nga meron na tayong bagong term ngayon, di ba, which is the EQ or the RQ rather, which is alam na natin yung IQ, the EQ. So ngayon meron na tayong what we call the RQ, which is the resiliency quotient. So paano ba tayo nakakasunod or nakaka-adapt sa changes na meron within our environment? So dito, pinapakita, the picture depicts na papalitan. So do you think na in the future, ganito yung mangyayari sa atin na in offices, mapapalitan na yung mga tao of the robots. So ito yung lahat ng tao, fears na mapalitan. Pwedeng mapalitan if within ourselves, hindi tayo mag-continually improve. So kaya nga kailangan natin is what? To upskill. So learn, acquire new skills. So for example, hindi ka magaling sa programming. So learn. So lahat naman is everything nasa internet na. So pwede nyo na mapag-aralan. So kailangan lang natin is may desire na to improve and to learn. So to address these trends, countries need to focus on its role and kind of education which is needed to prepare learners and education system for the fourth industrial revolution. In the US, meron na silang target year in the year 2030. So kailangan yung mga universities in the US is nakasunod na sa IR 4.0. And also our neighboring countries, they are also preparing for the education 4.0. Sana in the Philippines, so magkaroon na rin tayo ng program in the education 4.0. So I believe dito sa sa atin ang ginagawa initiative natin from our SUCs. So kung meron man from SUCs dito sa mga participants po natin ngayon na hindi na sila fully babalik dun sa face-to-face kind of learning, and more on the theory in teaching will be done virtually, and then yung lahat ng mga laboratories doon na lang sa school. So it is a one way na nababago yung system of education natin. So what universities need to do is instill the forces into student communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. Since lahat tayo is connected na, so malaki na yung chance natin to have the collaborative effort, to have the critical thinking, and to create innovative ideas. So make programming and ICT education a compulsory subject. So develop educational content in collaboration with the industry. So kailangan meron continual talks between the industry and the education sector. So reform content and methodology of education via digital. So have top people resources to lead the global industry engagement. So create new business trends through reform of higher education. So, di ba ngayon, nagkakaroon kasi ng mga bagong work, kung nag-change yung natin, yung industry natin, nagkakaroon ng mga bagong work, meron mga nagiging obsolete na yung mga work. So, kailangan tayong sumunod of what is happening and changing around us. For example, nagkaroon na ng, naging boom na yung trabaho in delivery. And also, marami na rin ngayon considered as work yung mga content creators, the vloggers. So, ito yung mga nag-emerge na mga bagong work, what we call, pwede na rin sabihin na work, and then other forms of earning. So, create new businesses trends to the reform of higher education. So, Industry 4.0 government, industry, and university research. Ito yung pinakamahalaga na magkaroon ng mga researches. Kasi ito yung magkakaroon tayo ng overview kung anong meron tayo ngayon at makakapag-isip tayo kung anong mga pwede nating solutions to address the problems we have. So there will also be an opportunity to examine the private sector. So contribution to the education and training. So malaki din ang tulong ng private sector para sa education. So may mga scholarships na binibigay to train abroad, and also other scholarships na binibigay locally. And what is role may look like in the future. So we have the training, to acquire the skill, and to develop new things. So changes that are happening within the field of education and education technology. So we have the e-learning. So lahat na ng mga notes will be readily available in the internet. So learning analytics. So ngayon, malaki na yung sector para sa data analytics. So, madali ngayon kumuha ng data, but the problem is who will analyze the data. So, kaya nga ngayon is, if you heard me, Project Sparta, kung narinig niyo yung Project Sparta of the government, a scholarship for, specifically for data analytics. So, libre naman siya if you have the time. So, pwede kayong mag-apply for scholarship, and I think it's under the DOST program. Ang pangalan ng program is the Sparta. Personalized learning and big data is starting to change the nature of processes of learning. So fundamentally, it is about how we lead change, collaboration. Ito kailangan talaga is merong collaborative effort. So and innovate to empower people and make this a peaceful and inclusive development revolution. We must respond with human-centered policies that empower all women and men. So kailangan meron human empowerment na. So strengthen the capacity of the governments and rally the multilateral system around shared narrative. So kailangan meron tayong pagtutulong-tulungan. So hindi na to about only you. So everything is meron ng connection with each and every one of us. So the current problems and circumstances are so complex that they do not fit previous patterns now. So since may changes na, so yung mga dati nating what we used to do ay hindi na siya fitted for this new revolution. So we do not recognize the situation and can't automatically know what to do. So we are currently preparing students for jobs that do not yet exist. So in order to solve their problems, we don't even know our problems yet. So ito kasi kailangan natin na mahirap kasi na for us na to change, to learn something new na hindi pa nag-e-exist. Kasi kailangan natin is planning. So kailangan natin i-plan what the future is, kung ano may magiging trend in the future. So pinakamahalaga din, lalo na sa education sector, is the planning. And ano ba yung fitted na curriculum in the future generations? So 21st century shift, so innovative thinking, so a new call, a shift to the 20th century of traditional view of organizational practices. So in old practices, babaguhin na natin lahat, which discourage employees' innovative behaviors na ang nasusunod lang, for example, in dating system is what the boss thinks. So ngayon, lahat is, since collaborative effort na to, so lahat ng ideas, even in the lower ranks, so are importante and should be taken into considerations. So valuing innovative thinking as a potential powerful influence on education organizational performance. So the success of the organization lies within the people, not only sa leader, sa president, but also lahat ng people involved in the system. So what worked before doesn't work today. Kaya nga 'di ba meron tayong a cliche na what is true yesterday may not be true today. So kung ano yung accepted dati, pwede nang hindi siya accepted ngayon. Kung ano yung tama dati is pwedeng hindi na siya tama ngayon. So to make effective sense of unfamiliar situations and complex challenges, we must have a grasp of the whole situation, its variables, unknowns, and mysterious forces. So in order to address a problem, so kailangan natin to think outside the box. So tingnan natin lahat in the different factors. Kasi minsan tayo is, ang nangyari is nakafocus lang tayo, ito yung problem, ito lang yung solution. So kailangan maging tayo, aware of the different things around us na pwedeng mag-contribute dun sa success ng isang projects na meron tayo. So this requires skills beyond everyday analysis. So ang kailangan nating improve or i-develop dun sa mga students natin is the critical thinking. So paano ba mag-analyze? So kasi ito, ang analysis kasi is a skill. So kailangan natin is continuously i-hone yung skills na yon. So pwede natin i-hone yun through dun sa education. So primary, meron tayong from the primary pa lang, kailangan sa primary pa lang na education is natuturuan na yung mga bata to analyze. So, i-develop yung analytical thinking ng mga students. So, it requires innovation in education. Sa in the DepEd, ang curriculum na is more on the output base. So output base kung ano yung output ng mga bata. So innovation in education, a technique that combines different styles to influence to produce creative ideas, innovative products, and services. So new approaches in innovation charted by school is transforming yourself, your student, and your school. So lahat yan magkakasama, the teachers, the students, and the organization or the schools to cultivate the habits and mindsets of innovators. Ito yung mga bata natin, the students natin, ito yung mga innovators to expose creativity and generate ideas that you can take with confidence. So effective school principals need to consciously support. So ito yung kailangan kasi minsan kasi may mga ideas yung mga teachers, the students, but kailangan ng support of the schools, of the universities, of the government, para ma-push through yung innovation na yon or yung idea na meron ang isang estudyante. And keep a focus on changing education landscape as it moves into the future. So, wala na yung ang teacher lang ang masusunod sa klase. So, wala nang say yung mga estudyante na lahat ng inputs will be coming from the teachers. So, ngayon meron ng interactions between the teacher and the students. So both are learning throughout the process of sa education. So it is focused not on doing things better, but on doing better things. So ayun na, doing better things. It may not be that magnified na kaagad. Pwede naman siyang kahit maliliit na steps is a big improvement na. So not on doing things right, but on doing the right things. So to prepare students for a fast-changing, interdependent world. So we have doing things better and doing the right things. So it is better for students to be involved in the innovative practices and participate in the new trends of education, which in what we call now the new normal in education? Or should we play it safe and have them attend the school that's look like the schools we attended 30 years ago, and our parents 60 years ago, and our grandparents 90 years ago? So currently, most schools are not much different than the one our grandparents attended in the 1920s. So, meron akong ipapakita sa inyo na short story. So, ito yung short story. So, near to the town, in a small cottage, lived Rip Van Winkle, known to all as a harmless, drinking, shiftless lout who never would work, but roamed about, always ready with jest and song, idling, tippling all day. So he went to sleep to run away from his nagging wife and woke up to find that his wife had died. So he was a character in a Washington Irving short story who went to sleep before the American War of Independence. So ito rin yung pwede natin siyang i-compare during the American occupation dito sa Philippines. So Rip Van Winkle had just woken up from his 100-year slumber and stares in amazement about how much everything has changed in the time that he was asleep. So when he woke up, from his 100-year sleep. So nakita niya na sa environment niya, sobra na yung changes. So everything has changed. So he almost did not recognize anything until he went into a classroom. So when Rip Van Winkle went to a classroom, he recognized immediately that it was a classroom because nothing much has changed in the K-12 educational system since he fell asleep in 1919. So, if tatanungin natin yung, if we ask our grandparents of what, to describe what school is, so the same din yung lalabas na sagot natin kung ano yung school na nakikita natin now. So, ano ba yung trying to message trying to across ng author? Na to teach the way they learn requires innovation. Kasi nga, para matuto, for we have the continuous learning, so kailangan magkaroon ng innovation in education. So, kung mapapansin nyo, kung ano yung education, kung ano yung environment ng students, sa loob ng classroom, the same pa rin sa environment na meron ng mga grandparents natin, grandparents natin, way back hanggang dun sa American occupation natin, na sila kasi yung nag-introduce sa atin ng 3 levels of education, which is the primary, secondary, and then the tertiary. And also, piniprepare kasi during the American occupation yung mga students in the workforce. Kaya nga, ang oras ng pasok is 8 to 5 kasi ganun yung oras dun sa industry, 8 to 5 din. So, kailangan nakaupo lang, kasi sa manufacturing, yung mga workers is nakaupo lang and will be directed by the leaders. Dito sa school, directed by the teachers kung anong gagawin nila. So nothing much have changed from that era hanggang ngayon dito sa kasalukuyan natin. So to teach the way they learn requires innovation in education, incorporating the 21st century skills and new teaching methodology. So ngayon, so hindi na lahat ng learnings ay matututunan natin in the 4 corners of the classroom. So kailangan lumabas na tayo. So latest trends in leading innovation in K-12 education. So thankfully, educators are starting to change with the times. So a brief background lang sa K-12 education. So sa Philippines, may pang 5th year na yung K-12. So kasi kaya na-introduce yung K-12 system kasi nga the Philippine education lacks 2 years of education. So when a graduate from our university migrate or move to another country na para mag-work, nire-require pa rin sila ng another 2 years of education since kulang yung education natin, system natin sa standard. So kaya nga in-introduce sa atin yung the K-12 system, adding 2 more years dun sa senior high school, which is the senior high school now in the Philippines. So the trend in K-12 education, so these days, is that learning institutions should try their best to keep up with the recent advances in technology to better teach their students. So the K-12 changes to meet the Industrial Revolution 4.0. So the aim of the K-12 system is, once na we produce the graduates, meron na tayo na they are capable enough, have the skills for the industry, na kailangan ng industry. So 9 things that will change as technology is rapidly changing the world around us. Many people worry that technology will replace human intelligence. Ito yung pinaka-worry ng lahat. So, hindi naman talaga siya, magkakaroon lang tayo ng fear if we do not innovate, or continually improve ourselves. So some educators worry that there will be no students to teach anymore in the near future as technology might take over a lot of tasks and abilities that we have been teaching our students for decades. So ngayon kasi globally, so kung ang teachers ay hindi susunod dun sa will not conform to the changes, mapag-iiwanan talaga. Kasi ngayon more on virtually na, more on technology-based learning na tayo. So the thing is, education will never disappear. So it will just take up different forms. So magkakaroon lang tayo ng different forms of learning. So here are the 9 things that will shape the future of education during the next 20 years. So diverse time and place. We have the personalized learning. So ano yung personalized learning? Kasi ngayon one size fits all education. In the future education 4.0, meron na tayong personalized learning depending on the capacity of the student. So iba-iba kasi we all know na iba-iba yung learning abilities ng isang student or the phase in learning ng isang individual. So ngayon, education will have a personalized learning. So depende dun sa depende dun sa student. So depende dun sa assessment dun sa students. So we have the free choice, the project-based. So hindi na siya lahat ng mga matututunan natin is within the confinement of the four corners of the classroom. So pwede na tayong lumabas. We have the field experience sa data interpretation. So kailangan natin ma-improve yung data analytics natin. Sa analysis of data natin. So madaling kumuha ng data. The problem is how will we interpret the data? Tama ba yung interpretation ng data natin? Kasi kapag mali yung interpretation of data natin, we will have a wrong interpretation. So wrong din yung makukuha nating solution to a problem, which is hindi, kung wrong yung solution natin, the problem will still exist and the problem will persist in the future. So exams will change completely. So tatanggalin na yung mga standardized test. So depende na rin doon sa pag-skills ng estudyante yung mga exams. So student ownership. So hindi lang teachers ang masusunod. So meron na ding students collaboration. So mentoring will become more important since we will have the personalized learning. So ang magiging tawag na sa mga teachers are the mentors. So ito na yung specific na magtuturo sa inyo kung ano yung gusto niyo matutunan, whether it is mathematics, in terms of science, in terms of arts, kahit baking. So depende yung learning natin and the capacity on the kung ano yung gusto ng students, kung saan siya mag-excel, saan siya magiging mas magaling to improve, to be an innovative students. This begins with education and skills and calls for a special focus on narrowing the gender gap. So ngayon wala na, lahat is tinatanggal na natin gender gap sa mga work. So lahat meron ng opportunity. So especially in the growth sector constituted by professions requiring a background in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So ngayon, the basis of employment will be on the skills. So hindi sa US kasi din, if we will have, so bawal sa kanila yung if we will post requirements, kailangan male, female, may age. So ngayon is tinatanggal na yon. So I hope sa Philippines din maging ganun na. So hindi na siya maging gender bias and age bias na ang work will be dependent on the skills na meron yung isang individual. So the fourth industrial revolution must be a development revolution. So ito, continuous developing. So just as important as what skills learners will need is what skills teachers will need and how the role will change. We will look at what students and teachers will need to successfully adapt to these new rules. So in addition, the fourth IR provides the opportunity to level the playing field and reduce inequalities, no more gender biases, age biases. So however, in order for education institution To deliver the right set of skills and knowledge workforce, a question has to be asked regarding how institutes will be affected by the fourth industrial revolution and how the delivery of education will be transformed. So kailangan na natin, there is a need for a transformation in the educational system. So the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old but on building the new. So that is the brief overview of what the IR 4.0 na meron tayo in connection with the Education 4.0. So kanina nabanggit ko na kailangan ma-develop tayo with ng isang smart school. Kung meron ng smart manufacturing, so kailangan sumunod din yung educational system natin. So meron na tayong dine-develop na smart schools. So what is a smart school? Okay. So in order to address yung mga different changes, medyo mahirap talaga sumunod. So kailangan lang natin na dedication, resilience. Kaya nga meron tayong resiliency na ngayon to adapt to the new changes na meron tayo. So what is a smart school? So smart schools are technologically enhanced schools that deliver the students a better and more effective educational experience. So unlike conventional school life, yung conventional natin, yung papasok tayo 8 to 5 sa schools, may books, magtuturo yung teacher. So hindi na siya ganon in the smart school environment. So the smart school concept makes use of the advanced technology and equipment in classroom to give students better learning experience. So what are the benefits of a smart school? First is easy access to online information. As a smart class incorporates various gadgets with internet connection such as mobiles, tablets, laptops, students can easily access online information. So lahat ngayon is readily available in the internet. Kung ano man gusto natin pag-aralan, kung anong information na meron tayo, pwede na ma-access ng student. But sadly, medyo nahirapan tayo in transition sa education natin ngayon. Since nag-shift tayo from face-to-face in the online classes na, medyo nahirapan yung mga students natin. Not only the students but also the teachers as well. Kasi hindi tayo nasanay ng ganon. So kasi bago para sa atin. But in the future, ito na yung magiging norm. Ito na yung magiging ito na yung normal environment natin in learning. So kaya okay lang naman kasi nasa learning pa lang tayo, nasa transition period pa lang tayo. So at least na-introduce na sa atin, na-introduce na sa student ano yung bagong way of learning. And yung way of learning kasi ng students ay hindi nakatulad dati. Nakatulad dati, lahat ng information ituturo ni teachers. So, nakafocus lang kay teachers. So, ngayon, sa learning is kailangan is meron kang urge to find new things na to have a further learning kung ano man yung topics na meron. Lalo na ngayon kung nasa modular type of learning, sa modules. So, kailangan is matuto yung estudyante to discover, so pag-aralan. Kasi lahat naman ng informations are in the internet. So, data regarding any of their subjects are available at their fingertips. So, both teachers and students can have access to online resources to learn more about the subject rather than what it is in the syllabus to get a better understanding of the lessons. So we have the digital medium for note-taking. Students can save a lot of their learning time by making use of digital medium for note-taking. So ngayon, pwede namang note-taking digitally. So they do not need to carry heavy textbooks. Lahat ng mga textbooks, I believe merong na-introduce before sa DepEd na lahat ng mga textbooks nasa pad na siya, nasa tablet na siya. And the notebooks to school, but just their tab and digital pen. So the digital notes are easy to share, and so peers can make learning more engaging by sharing their personalized notes on the subject with ease. So mas madali, 'di ba? I have previously discussed na kailangan palakasin yung collaboration. So nagkakaroon na tayo ng mas madaling na tayong mag-exchange ng notes to have collaboration between our students and teachers with the use of technology. So digital tools help understand topics better. So the learning sessions involve more visual aids, just as PowerPoint presentation, audio session. So marami na ngayong mga applications na ginagamit si teachers in delivering the lessons. So Word documents, video screening, which convey the lessons in a more understandable way. So marami na ngayong simulations na pwedeng ipakita doon sa mga estudyante na mas madali nilang maiintindihan yung lessons. So a simple picture can replace 1,000 words, and the use of such instructional tools in a smart classes is making learning more effective. Kasi usually visually ang learning kasi. So kung mas meron tayong nakita na actual na nangyayari, mas nagiging mas na-absorb ng student yung learning. If nakita niya yung application of what is being learned dun sa lessons nila. So listening to lectures and taking notes at the same time can be troublesome for students who are not comfortable with multitasking, which is not a problem in smart classes. So before, mas napofocus yung mga estudyante in taking down notes instead of listening to the teachers. So ngayon, mawawala na yun kasi nga lahat will be digitally available. So smart solution for absentees. So in a smart school, you can record all the lessons taught in a day. So even when a student falls sick and misses out a couple of lessons, they have access to the recordings that they can fall back on and keep with their studies. So kahit if for example, nagkasakit yung student and then cannot come to classes, kahit virtual pa siya, so meron lessons are recorded na pwedeng mapag-aralan ng students. We have the dynamic perspective to learning. So one of the main benefits of a smart classroom is that it enables the students to have a customized learning experience. So dito in Education 4.0, customized learning na to fit kung ano yung meron sa isang estudyante. Kaya nga, before nga sabi ko, hindi na siya one size fits all. Education will never be a one size fits all kasi magkakaiba kasi yung learning ability ng individual students. So with this, teachers will also be able to help all the struggling students in their academics without missing out anyone, which usually happens in traditional schools due to time restrictions. Kasi more on teachers, kahit na na-experience ko din before kasi I used to teach din sa college, pero ngayon nagtuturo pa rin ako sa college for the ECEs. Minsan ang focus kasi ng teacher is matapos lang yung syllabus. Okay, so ngayon, kasi ang mahirap kasi is the problem is different students have different phases in learning. Since mawawala na yung time restriction, so ang pagtatapos ng modules will be dependent on the capacity of the students. So interactive learning experience. So another major benefit of a smart school is that it makes the teaching environment much more interactive. So mas engaging kasi yung learning if it is interactive. So the teaching system and the tools used in the school will encourage students to be more interactive in the school and participate more in learning experience. So increasing knowledge retention on a grade scale. So if may interaction between peers, between teachers, students, mas malaking retention ng learning. So with fun quizzes, online tests, so marami na ngayong online quizzes, Quizlet, Quizit, Mentimeter. So we have the online tests, group activities, and more. That the technology will give all the students a role to play in the classroom, thus increasing the bond between the student and the teacher and among fellow students. So sa lahat, in a new environment of the classroom, lahat na is will have a participation, collaboration between the student and the teacher and among fellow students. So technology enables students and teachers to communicate even outside the school via emails and other special communication platforms the school uses. So yung communication is continuous. So hindi lang dun sa time na meron kayo during the classes, but ang communication kasi will continue kahit na anong oras. Kasi nga sa technology na meron tayo, so pwedeng mag-text, mag-emails, through FB messengers, pwedeng magtanong sa teachers or pwedeng magtanong sa other classmates about the lessons para sa learning. So yung learning natin hindi natatapos dun sa time na schools na meron tayo. We have the digital tools to replace papers. So pen and paper free education. So pen and paper free education na daw. So a smart school replaces pen and paper with digital tools, making the entire educational experience paper free. So with digital note-taking, smart classes are actually proposing a way for replacing the use of tons of papers every year. So ngayon, di ba nag-shift na tayo in the paperless, even in the offices, nagkakaroon na tayo ng paperless. Paperless na yung ginagamit natin. So also ngayon, i-extend natin yung paper-free education sa mga students. So hindi na tayo, yung mga student could submit their papers digitally. So hindi na kailangang i-print and i-submit sa teachers, and then it could be submitted anytime. So hindi na lang dun sa during the class hours. So there are ways na magiging efficient and then makakonserve natin yung resources natin. So this concept gives no way for printouts and photocopiers that are the main reason for generating the carbon footprint. So the smart classes are indeed a smarter way of proposing a greener environment, which is kasama sa Sustainable Development Goals ang greener environment. So maintenance is easy. So in the conventional classroom, students will have to spend a sum every year to buy books, pens, and other stuff with the changing levels of classes. So hindi na kailangang bumili ng mga sobrang mamahal na mga books. So before ako nung college, I always have books. Bumibili talaga ako even kahit sobrang mahal na mga books. So maswerte na yung mga students ngayon that the information is readily available na sa kanila. So others are with the changing levels of their classes. So smart classes propose a one-time investment for buying electronic gadgets during the first year. So students can use the same gadget for the rest of the years by storing each year's content on the cloud. So learning with subject experts. So the conventional classroom would have a set of teachers to handle different subjects, which remains the same throughout the year. So smart classes often involve video lecture sessions from subject experts, which helps students to have the next level of understanding of the subjects. By communicating with the subject experts, students can get a chance to learn the subject from a different perspective, which helps them to learn through lessons with tough lessons with ease. So ngayon, ang tawag usually in the future, we'll have not teachers, but the subject experts. So pwede kasi yung teacher ay manggaling from another country which has the expertise on that field. Kaya nga yung teachers should continually to upskill, to learn new things para hindi siya mapag-iiwanan. Kasi ngayon, since sa global communication na, pwede na yung teachers ay hindi na from the Philippines. So, pwede na yung teachers coming from the other countries na magtuturo, which is happening, di ba, sa mga video lessons natin ngayon sa webinars. Webinars natin are speakers natin coming from a different countries. Yun din yung magiging parang norm sa education. Kung sino may expertise, yun yung magiging teachers nyo for that subject. So expanded learning opportunities. So with a wide range of possibilities, the smart teaching concept proposes an open world learning rather than learning within the four walls of the classroom. So ang learning will be outside of the four corners of the classroom. So iba na yung classroom natin ngayon. Hindi na siya yung conventional classroom na makikita natin from our grandparents, from grandparents. So iba na yung environment ng isang classroom in a smart schools. This gives them a wide opportunities to explore more about the subject on the web and make learning more comfortable for them. As the world of the internet opens them a handful of diverse learning opportunities, students can improve their competency level and go out for the out-of-the-box learning concept. So since meron collaboration, meron tayong communication with other students, it could be other students from different countries, nagkakaroon tayo ng critical thinking. So, nade-develop yung critical thinking natin, analysis, and then nagkakaroon tayo ng bagong ideas. So, ito naman talaga yung goal of learning, to create something new, to create something better. Fun-filled learning. So, the use of digital tools makes learning session more fun-filled with advanced level of gamification. So, ngayon marami ng mga researches regarding introducing gamification in classes. So, mas nagiging engaging, mas magkakaroon ng retentions of the classes since students are lalo na ngayon, more into gaming. The smarter and entertaining way of learning with advanced technologies gives no way for any dull moment in classrooms, and students will be craving for more every time. So ngayon maging engaging na, so hindi na ngayon tatamarin yung mga students, so it will be a fun environment way of learning. Collaborative learning options. So the smart school concept is a good platform to make the best out of collaborative learning. So ngayon, isa sa goals ng Education 4.0 is collaborative learning. So dynamic grouping, project-based learning, and a workshop gives them a good chance to get better out of a group learning. Keep parents in the loop. So for effective extended learning to happen, parents should also stay updated with the ward's curriculum. So using classroom management application, parents can also interact and keep track of their child's academic progress. So meron na rin ngayon, other schools are introducing applications para yung the parents could also track the progress of their child. So makita rin natin na meron ding kasama din dito is the parents. Parents can directly communicate with teachers using these applications. Next, we have the increased productivity. So it is to engage and involve the students easily in minimal time, thus motivating students and teachers in a way to accomplish better results, leading to increased productivity. So since readily available na lahat, so meron na kayong ways of doing things, so mag-i-increase yung productivity and ma-increase yung motivation of the student to accomplish more. Okay. In an ICT application na smart school, so ito yung mga kailangan natin. So we have the Wi-Fi service, which is ito yung major drawback kung bakit hindi tayo makapag-push through in Education 4.0, which is the internet connectivity, which is the Philippines kasi is lagging behind the internet speed compared to the other Asian countries, which is pero ang DICT is bridging that gap na nagkakaroon ng meron program ang DICT, which is the Wi-Fi for all. So inuuna nila magkaroon ng Wi-Fi connections yung mga schools, SUCs, para dun sa continuous learning education ng mga student, lalo na ngayong pandemic. So enough ICT laboratories. So kailangan meron tayong enough ratio. Minsan kasi hindi enough yung ratio, students ratio ng isang for a student. For example, isang ICT lab for thousands of students. So we have the interactive whiteboards, projectors, and also the computers. So you have the 6 teaching and learning components in a smart school. So we have the teaching and the learning process. So dapat mabago yung curriculum na meron tayo ngayon. And also with the policies. And then para makasunod tayo sa bagong technologies, which is introduced in the IR 4.0, the processes, also the human resources, skills and responsibility, and also kailangan ng support ng management and the administration. Okay, what are the challenges of a smart school? So first talaga, the challenges are the expenses. Okay. Expenses. Okay, so kailangan talaga natin ng kasi mahal yung mga gadgets, mahal yung mga computers, is kailangan talaga natin ng tulong not only from the government, but also from a private sector. Another challenges are the teachers. So kailangan ng teacher sumunod sa bagong way of delivering lessons. So kailangan mag-upskill to learn new things, which is ngayon lahat ng teachers ay nag-aaral na, di ba? To learn new application in delivering the lessons virtually. So marami ng applications, marami ng LMS, so marami ng pwede na gamit si teacher to introduce the lessons. So mapag-iiwanan talaga si teacher if hindi siya makakasunod dun sa way of teaching. Kaya it should come from the initiative of the organization na tulungan ang mga teachers para maka-adapt sa new normal. And also government and private sector, we should also the ICT is giving mga different webinars para makatulong din sa mga teachers. So also the students. So we have the comparison between the non-smart school and the smart school. The non-smart school have the critical thinking skills, which is also meron din sa isang smart school, but have more. So we have the ICT knowledge, the creative perception, since meron mga tayong collaborative effort, integrated science processes, and so lalabas dito is the multiple intelligences. So not only mini-measure, which is the IQ, but also the different abilities of the students. Next, we have the Internet of Things. So IoT is powering up the schools. So in order na magkaroon tayo ng isang smart school, eto na mag-i-introduce na tayo ng Internet of Things, so which is everything will be connected to the internet. So Internet of Things, so the Internet of Things describes the network of physical objects that are embedded with sensors. So may mga sensors na, softwares, application softwares, and other technologies for the purpose of connecting and exchanging data with other devices and systems over the internet. So one example of application of Internet of Things, lahat kasi in the Internet of Things environment, so all things will be connected in the internet. For example, Yung refrigerator nyo will be connected to the internet. Meron siyang mga sensors para malaman, for example, wala na palang, for example, and may usually meron tayo sa ref. So for example, wala na tayong milk, for example. So automatically, it will sense na, na wala ng milk dun sa loob ng refrigerator. And then, the refrigerator, since meron na sa kanyang nakaprogram na sa kanya, will automatically contact yung supplier para i-deliver yung milk sa bahay. So yun yung one application of Internet of Things. So everything will be automated, everything will have sensors, everything will be connected to the internet. So how does the Internet of Things work? So we have the IoT devices na meron tayong sensors. We have kung saan mag-store yung data natin sa cloud. So data processing and the user interface. So ito yung components of an IoT. So the impact of IoT in education field. So the use of devices for automated tasks. So pati si teacher, mas madali na rin mag-check ng papers. Hindi na kailangan check isa-isa. So meron ng mga SIP grade. So meron ng mga applications na madali na mag-check for the teacher. So efficient teaching process. So outside of the classroom learning. So meron na field experience yung mga students. So special education for special skills or talent ng isang estudyante or kung ano yung passion ng estudyante. You have the safety. Safety, pwede kasi kasama na rin yung monitoring ng parents. So meron na rin ngayong mga schools that have, for example, pumasok yung students, automatically merong mag-send na SMS or text messages kay parents na nag-in na yung anak nila sa school. So we have the global, also the global interconnectedness. So lahat will be connected so across every countries globally. So solutions IoT has in education. So communication network. So new generation of textbooks. Meron ng mga e-tablets, gadgets, data collection, advanced security. So this apply ang mga cyber security, data protection policies. So which is the DICT is also giving now. So we have the also the PNPKI, the advanced school management, and also the school management should also expand, or should I say also innovate. So how might the internet look in education setting? So every pupil issued with for example, ito lang yung sample of the smart school. So using the Internet of Things. So for example, every student will have a wearable device that logs their attendance. So we have the digital beacons, ito yung mga wireless connections that transmit lessons, information directly to each pupils as they enter the classroom. So it will be dependent kung saan yung For example, hindi siya dependent lang dun sa lesson. Dependent yung mga papasok na information on the natapos ng students, on the phase ng student. So automatic ordering of station, for example, the supplies, automatically mag-purchase na, just like examples ko kanina. So weather station device that uploads data at a national or international database providing real-life information for science learning. So yung information will not only be coming within the Philippines, pwede yung learning natin from other countries, global. So we have the personalized learning materials that analyze and assessment and usage data. So we have the personalized learning. Okay, so in order to have an overview para meron kayo what is a smart school, meron akong papanoorin sa inyo na video. This is not a paid advertisement from Cisco, pero ito yung from the YouTube channel of the Cisco, which is the future of education.
What does the future hold for education? In 5 years? 10? What will learning be like for students, and how will teachers instruct? And what role will security and IT operations play in keeping critical functions online and facilities and data secure? Today, the learning experience is already extending beyond the classroom. Soon, on-demand and more personalized learning will make it even easier for students to fit school into their own schedules and learn in the way that best suits them. Finishing a course will be based on the knowledge you've acquired, not a specific date. Augmented reality, digital images superimposed on live content, and virtual reality, an artificial 3D environment, are some of the hottest technologies today. In education, they can allow students to visit monuments, explore Mars, and even travel back in time. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is the ability for computerized machines to mimic human thought processes. It could make it possible to personalize the delivery of information and assessments to an individual. It could also shift the role of the teacher to that of a facilitator, supplementing the AI lessons and helping struggling students. And for academic research and discoveries, AI could help break through boundaries we can't even conceive right now. Everything you do today and tomorrow, from capturing lessons to enhancing research capabilities with AI, depends on a strong IT infrastructure foundation. All your systems, network, mobility, collaboration, security, data center, need to work together seamlessly to support the changing landscape of education. And Cisco can help.
Okay, so now, after the discussion, so we could assess ourselves and ask questions. Are we ready for the future of education? Do we have the enough skills sa education, lalo na yung mga teachers? Okay, if may questions kayo, so you can ask questions now. So if pwede kayong mag-unmute ng mic to ask questions.
All right, Ma'am Julie, finished na po kayo sa presentation?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'll just have a 5-minute break po muna. So for our mind to be refreshed po, no? So let's have a break po for 5 minutes. So we have a water break for that, for our webinar for this morning. So if you have any questions po, you can actually now put in a chat box po yung mga questions, and we'll be go back after 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Just share my screen po. Hello. Hello,
And
ma'am.
hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Yan. All right, so we'll be having a game po for for this time. So, kung sino po yung mauuna na makasagot po dito sa YouTube live po natin will be receiving po a 100 pesos GCash. All right? So, yan po. So, meron pong tatlong tanong si Ma'am Jody po sa atin, sa mga nanonood po sa YouTube Live. And kung sino po yung una, again, una pong makasagot after po ng question po niya, ay yun po yung ating makukuha po na mananalo. Okay po, so ready na po ba ang lahat sa may YouTube Live? Yan, I think ready na sila. Okay, ready na sila. So let's have ma'am yung ating first question po sa ating mga viewers po sa YouTube.
Okay, sir. So our first question is, what is the term in the future of education? So I repeat, what is the new term in the future of education?
So meron na po bang sumasagot sa ating YouTube Live? I think wala pa po. Ma'am, can you repeat the question po?
Okay. So what is the term in the future of education?
Alright, sige po. Okay.
Okay. Parang meron na, sir, si Sir.
Vincent po,
Okay.
ma'am? Tama po ba?
Vincent Laran. So
Yes.
education 4.0. Tama po, sir. So the answer is education 4.0.
Alright, thank you po. So, for the winners po pala ng ating YouTube live po natin. Don't forget po to submit your phone number and your complete name po sa ibibigay ko po dito sa ating chat box po sa YouTube. So again, don't forget po yung ating phone number and your full name po para makareceive po ng cash prize po via GCash na 100 pesos. So yan po, na-chat ko na po sa ating YouTube live yung um, ating email address kay Sir Vincent Laran. Okay, so please email po with your name and your GCash number to dict.quezon@gmail.com. Marami pong salamat. Yan po. Next po ma'am for the second question.
Okay, for the second question, what are the 3 key elements that drives innovation in education? So what are the 3 key elements that drives innovation in education, or what we call the 3 P's? So PPP. So what are those? So 3 keys elements that drives innovation in education, or the 3 P's. So kindly type your answers po. So I repeat, the 3 key elements that drives innovation in education, which is the 3 P's. Ano po yung tatlong P? Okay, sir, we have the correct answer na from Mr. Mark Anthony Gamuza, which is the answer is the people, the processes, and the philosophies. Congratulations, sir.
All right, Sir Mark Anthony. Again, please email po, no? Please email yung pong inyong GCash number and your full name po to dict.quezon@gmail.com. Again, that's dict.quezon@gmail.com.
Okay,
And that's for Mark Anthony Gamusa.
Okay, for our last question, so give at least 5 emerging technologies in the education 4.0. What are the at least? So I've given 10, so or more. So kindly give at least 5 of the emerging technologies. So I'll give one example, which is artificial intelligence. So that is one example of emerging technology. So I'll give at least 5 from the discussion of the emerging technologies for the education 4.0. Mukhang nahihirapan, sir. So, sige, at least 3 na lang. So, at least 3 emerging technologies for the education 4.0. Okay, so we have Mr. Lex Anova, which is the robotics, 3D printing, bioprinting, nanomedicine, and which also under the nanotechnology and the cloud computing. So, thank you, Sir Anova. Congratulations po.
Alright, so again po, no, for the winners po ng ating question and answer by the resource speaker po, the following person po, no, Vincent Laran, Mark Anthony Gamuza, and Lex Anova. Again, please, please email us po with the email address dict.quezon@gmail.com for your GCash number and your full name po. Again, that is dict.quezon@gmail.com. Yan. So, we'll be having our participants back po in our Zoom meeting. So, please stand by lang po for a minute. All right, so let's have the third webinar code po. So please write down the third webinar code. So ito po yung ating third webinar code. So please screenshot po or take a picture or list down the third webinar code. So gagamitin po natin to sa pag-access po sa ating post-evaluation form. Again, this is our third webinar code po. So I'll give you a minute po ulit to list down this webinar code. All right, so that is our third webinar code po. So let's have now the question and answer for this session. So I receiving questions po from the YouTube and from, of course, from the Zoom meeting. So let's start po muna in the Zoom meeting po. No? It's from Arjon Caballero. So um, this is his question. No? I appreciate discussion as this seems a very ideal in the future, but it is obvious that we are still starting to get into it. In fact, we are not yet fully equipped. Being from the DepEd Senior High School, ma'am, could you share some challenges you have experienced while trying to shift to Education 4.0? And what are the alternatives or initiatives you have made to address those challenges? Thank you.
So, in achieving the environment for the Education 4.0, so long shot pa for sa education system natin to achieve yung what Education 4.0 is. So, ngayon kasi, it is the first step kasi is to become aware that there is a need for a change. So, malaking step na siya para sa education system natin for the transformation, that we should be aware that there is a need to change, na meron dapat baguhin. So, kung aware na tayo, then we could go further more. So, kailangan kasi ng medyo mahirap kasi to achieve the smart school or what the Education 4.0 is giving. Kasi the problem is yung ibang countries kasi is nagpe-prepare na sila for the curriculum based on the Education 4.0, which is may target year na sila. But in the Philippines, kailangan kasi maging aware na kailangan nating makasunod, na kailangan natin na makasunod dun sa curriculum. So there should be a change from the top management muna of the education na to address the na meron talagang technology gap dito sa in terms of the education dito sa Philippines. And what we can do habang nagta-transform pa is for ourselves na since meron ito yung future, so we must, as a teacher, we must prepare for the coming changes in education. So now, pwede tayong unti-unti mag-aral, different applications, different ways of introducing lessons, of applications na meron, which is yung iba kasi may bayad, pero marami man naman ding applications that are free to use na pwedeng gamitin unti-unti ng teacher para sa towards sa education 4.0 na gusto natin ma-meet in the future of education. So, kasi ngayon, one major challenges talaga in delivering education virtually or online is the connectivity issues, which is medyo malaki pa yung kakaharapin ng Philippines to address that issue. So, but as an individual, so hindi naman pwede na mag-stop rin tayo. So pwede rin na tayo mag-aral. So unti-unti natin go in hand with the administrator, the government, the private sector should go hand in hand to address the issue of the internet connections in the Philippines, which is tinatry ng DICT na magbigay na access for all. So ako talaga din in teaching online. So madalas din ako na nadi-disconnect. The students also don't have the gadgets, mobile phones, and the data connection to participate in the class. So para pumasok dun sa virtual classroom. Kaya medyo mahirap pa rin. But it is understandable since we are in the transition phase. So yung mga students din kasi ay hindi rin sanay for this kind of environment. Kasi there is a drastic shift, tama si sir, there's a drastic shift between the face-to-face type of learning into a virtual type of education.
All right, thank you, Ma'am Jody. For second question po, no? It's from Lynn Lumibaw from the Zoom meeting. So, Education 4.0 and smart school seems impossible in our present situation, where even basic educational tools like computer and cell phone and even electricity and internet is so hard in rural areas. How do we implement Education 4.0 with these difficulties?
Okay, just like I've said before, so siguro this webinar should only raise awareness to the teachers and to the administrators na kailangan nating mag-move. So kailangan nating to adapt to the new changes in the education. So this pandemic, so yun nga yung sinabi ko kanina na malaki yung naging impact ng pandemic na naging aware tayo kasi since sa ibang countries talaga even without pandemic, so they are gearing towards education 4.0. So ngayon since nagkaroon ng pandemic, nagkaroon ng need na kailangan sumunod na pag-aralan ng teacher ang different types of learning system na pwede sa distance learning. So lahat ng different modalities na ng teachers ngayon. So at least nagkakaroon tayo ng one step towards the achievement of Education 4.0 in the Philippines. But ang major drawback talaga is the cost. So mahal talaga yung mga equipments for the AI, for the augmented reality, and for the gadgets. Lalo na ngayon walang gadgets. Even if the institution has, paano yung mga student? So wala na din namang data connection yung students, wala ding gadgets. So that comes yung mga private sectors to help. So para tulungan yung mga students na wala talagang gadget para makasunod tayo in the fast emerging changes sa environment natin.
All right, thank you, Ma'am Jody. With addition lang po, Ma'am Jody, with your answer is from Arjon Caballero din. No? Sabi niya, actually daw po, smart schools is available in some premier schools like in the country such as Ateneo and Malayan colleges have already utilizing features of smart schools as described. However, we have to look beyond and see the economic situation of the majority of our students. Yeah.
Sir, in addition pala, so sana nga yung from the different universities, I know yung mga schools na merong capacity na for that is meron na talaga sila. So I'm coming from the Mapua, which is under din ng Malayan. So before kahit nung sa school, meron na mga smart system schools. But sana ngayon, i-incorporate natin yung smart schools sa basic education. So sana maibaba natin from the basic educations na sila rin makaranas what is the technology. So even at a younger age, technology enabled na yung mga students natin.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So yeah. Next. All right. So this from the YouTube live naman po, Ma'am Jody, no, from the YouTube live. So, which job at present are most likely going to be replaced by AI and robots in the near future?
Okay, sige. So if you have seen sa mga sa mga news, so meron na ngayon mga meron na ngayong mga newscasters that are robots na. So but marami na kasing mga different jobs na nawawala na hindi na tugma dun sa bago or na-replace na ng mga bago. For example, ano may replace na for example yung mga repetitive jobs, yung mga ginagawa sa production, is nare-replace na ng mga machines, nare-replace na ng mga robotics. So lalo na in manufacturing. So yung mga jobs din meron na pwede rin ng teacher. So pwede rin ng mga teacher ay ma-replace ng machines kasi pwede ng augmented reality or the teacher is lahat ng mga lessons that will be delivered is nakaprogram na. Kaya lang ang sinasabi natin ngayon is para hindi tayo ma-replace ng machines, we should continually upskill. So kailangan natin mag-upskill para hindi tayo mapag-iwanan at hindi tayo ma-replace of something which is a robot. So yun yung natin, yun yung objective natin. So ang objective natin is to continually upskill. So para hindi tayo mapalitan ng mga robots. Ang objective naman talaga ng robot is para mas madali, yung to make life easier. So yun naman objective is to make repetitive jobs na gawin instead of the human ay gagawin na ng mga machines.
Alright, thank you, Ma'am Jody. Another po, parang it's like a follow-up question doon. What is your take in the statement, teachers cannot be replaced by any form of technology? Thank you. That's from Hector Bakal, from the
Yes.
YouTube live viewer po natin.
Sige. Hindi talaga cannot be replaced by any type of robots. Kaya lang kasi if we will stay stagnant at mapag-iiwanan tayo, so magiging tayo. So magiging vulnerable tayo na pwede tayong mapalitan. Kaya nga 'di ba? We should all give emphasis. So I'm always giving emphasis na kailangan for the teachers is to continually improve. So meron ka lang upskilling. So for example, from the traditional face-to-face, so lahat is ngayon is going to virtually. So kailangan ang teachers is sumunod, pag-aralan ng new methods of delivering the lessons para hindi tayo mapag-iiwanan. So the key point is upskilling talaga.
All right, thank you, Ma'am. Ma'am Jody. Yan. So mayroong question pa po kanina in the breakout room may nagtanong po dito. Sabi po niya, in your opinion, what are the skills that the student should develop more in order to avoid being redundant or replaced by robots? Again po, in your opinion, what are the skills that the student should develop more in order to avoid being redundant or replaced by robots?
So kailangan should students or individual. So everyone should have kailangan i-develop natin yung critical thinking skills natin. So from the start pa lang sana in education, sana ang nade-develop dun sa mga bata is not by memorizing things but also by have a critical thinking. So kailangan mabigyan na sila ng voice to speak out. So usually kasi yung traditional form of education, ang mga students sa mga bata is hindi talaga heard ng teacher. So ang kailangan lang is teacher ituturo sa mga bata. So ngayon in Education 4.0, so dine-develop not only the IQ of the student but also the different multiple intelligences. So dito sana nakita natin na hindi lang academically, so pwede siyang pwedeng ma-improve yung learning in terms of for example in the arts. So usually ganun na yung magiging trend in the Education 4.0, which is kung ano yung passion ng isang estudyante, kung saan yung doon sa kasi nga learning ngayon will be fun. So kung ano yung gusto ng bata, so yun yung i-develop sana natin to be critical thinkers, to be innovators. So kaya if there is something na gusto i-express sa mga students, so wag natin silang i-discourage, wag natin silang i-shut kaagad. So pakinggan natin and then from their expressions, makita natin kung anong pwede nating itulong sa mga bata as a teachers.
Alright, thank you. Nag-follow up si Sir Arjon. Sabi niya, is it as same as the Montessori approach?
I'm not familiar with the Montessori approach na education. But yung the approach kasi in the Education 4.0 is more on the technology-based education. So learning outcome, more on the experience outside the classroom, in learning experiences, and more on the project-based collaborative effort of the students. So doon mine-measure yung students, yung skills ng mga students in the Education 4.0.
All right, thank you, Ma'am Judy, for for answering the questions from our participants. So medyo lively ang ating participants kasi marami silang tanong regarding the Education 4.0. So yan, so let's have our closing remarks po, no? Our closing remarks for this morning. So the closing remarks will be given by Engineer Mario Antonio V. Ayahay, the officer in charge of the Technical Operation Division of the Luzon Cluster 2. So please watch this video.
Good morning to our moderator for the lively introduction. Good morning to all of you who joined this webinar via Zoom meeting and watch via YouTube Live. As we bring our Tech4ED webinar to a close, we once again thank you for allowing us to be here this day and hope that this activity has given you an ounce of knowledge on what the future may bring in education. This is in response and support of the department's initiative to continue addressing a society without digital limits despite this pandemic. We hope that you have gained something in our duly conducted webinar, which is entitled Transforming the Future of Education. In behalf of our Regional Director, Reynaldo TC, let me thank our resource person, Engineer Jodeline L. Toscano, to my Quezon team headed by Mr. KJ Marquez, which without them, this training wouldn't be possible. We hope to see you again next week for our upcoming webinar. Have a good day, stay safe, and God bless.
All right, thank you, Engineer
Good morning.
Ayahay, for the closing remarks. So before we end, so let's have a awarding of the certificates to Engineer Jodelyn. So I'll just read the citation po no Miss Jodelyn. The Republic of the Philippines Department of Information and Communications Technology. This certificate of recognition is given to Engineer Jodelyn L. Toscano in grateful recognition of her invaluable support as a resource person during the webinar entitled Education 4.0 Transforming the Future of Education of the Technology Empowerment for Economic Development Program of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, Luzon Cluster 2 given this 23rd day of July 2021. Later, it will sign by Engineer Renal TC, the Regional Director. So congratulations, Ma'am Jodelyn, for giving us your insight regarding the Education 4.0, transforming the future of education. So for our Zoom meeting participants here, let's have a give Ma'am Jody a virtual clap po. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sir KJ, and thank you very much from the DICT for
Right.
the opportunity to share, and also the participants for giving their time.
All right. Thank you po, Ma'am Judy, and for the participants po who joined from the start of our webinar until the last until the last of our presentation. All right. So again, we have these guidelines and reminders po. No? So certificate again will be provided to those who have attended the full duration of the webinar and answer the post-evaluation form. So make sure po that you answer the post evaluation form po relevant po sa discussion po ng ating resource speaker, and be more specific po because if you read po yung answers and it's not specific po, we will not issue your electronic certificate. So yan. And again po, 4 webinar codes will be given in the duration of the webinar. So we already provide the first until the third webinar codes po. So stay tuned for our last webinar code. So because these 4 webinar codes will be needed po in answering the post-evaluation form. Again, I emphasize po the third guidelines and reminders po natin na answer the questions based on the webinar discussion. Again, if you don't have received your e-certificate within 10 working days, you may inquire po sa ating official email address at dict.quezon@gmail.com with your full name and your email address po no na nalagay po ninyo sa post-evaluation form. Baka po kasi na bounce back po ito or hindi po namin natanggap ang inyong sagot because hindi po ninyo in-specify yung inyong sagot po talaga sa post-evaluation form. And pag ang sagot po ninyo ay hindi naman relevant or ibig sabihin kinuha nyo lang po sa iba na hindi talaga based on the discussion ni ating speaker po, again, ay hindi po ito ma-record din po natin or hindi po kayo ma-issuehan ng inyong e-certificate. Alright? Fourth, again, input your active and email address po no, sa ating post-evaluation form, and don't forget the cut-off time is until 2 p.m. lang po today. Again, it's 2 p.m. Today, July 23, 2021. And after po the post-evaluation form will be closed, you can actually now replay po yung ating live streaming at the URL po na nakikita po ninyo sa inyong screen. Yan. And don't forget po to like us, our official Facebook page regarding the programs and projects po of the DICT. We have the Department of Information and Communications Technology, DICT at DICT Gov PH, the regional office Facebook fan page at Department of Information and Communications Technology Luzon Cluster 2 at dict.lc2. The DICT Quezon at dict.quezon, and the Tech4ED program Luzon Cluster 2 at the Tech4ED.lc2. So for So, ito na po ang ating hinihintay, yung ating last webinar code. So this is our last webinar code. So please list down the last webinar code po, no, na nakikita po ninyo sa yung screen. I'll be giving you a minute or two to write the webinar code po. Alright, again po, maraming pong salamat. And again, this is our post-evaluation form. Again po, yan po yung ating post-evaluation form that you can access po yung ating 4 webinar codes. That's tinyurl/EC3E8J4A. And you can actually scan po yung ating QR code na nakikita po ninyo sa inyong screen to automatically po go with the post-evaluation form. Again po, marami pong salamat sa inyong pakikinig po for the full duration of the webinar. Marami pong salamat, Ma'am Jodeline Toscano po, to joining me here po from 9 a.m. until today po. To our participants po who joined the Zoom meeting, na naglaan po ng kanilang oras po para po makinig regarding the Education 4.0 ng webinar po ng Tech4ED, and to our viewers po ng ating YouTube live. So maraming pong salamat na nagsimula po na 9 a.m. hanggang ngayon na nanood po ng full duration of the webinar. Again po, maraming pong salamat, at sabi po ni B.B. King, di ba, the beautiful thing about learning is that no one can take it away from you. Again po, maraming pong salamat for attending our webinar. Mag-iingat po tayong lahat, keep safe po, at mag-iingat po tayo. Again, this is Mr. KJ Marquez po, the webinar for the Tech4ED webinar moderator po for this webinar. Have a safe Friday and happy weekends po sa ating lahat. Ingat po tayo.
Thank you.